Kim and Brian
Oh,
Walker, how are you guys today? Y'all were just in my shop like a week ago. We should have done this in person. You know what?
Yeah,
true
yeah, we should
story.
have.
Yeah. I mean,
Totally
David
could have
wouldn't have
done
been
that.
here, but that would have been a positive. Not having David around. It just makes things go much smoother, much easier. Um. So everybody's headed out to Apex. You guys will be at Apex this year,
We will.
Absolutely.
teaching a
Yep,
class.
teaching a class. We have a booth, bringing some of our team.
Yep.
Nice, nice. Absolutely. I hear the team
What's the
really wants to
class?
ride go karts at some point while they're there. I was asked to point that out.
Yeah, you started that. You are
I
the one who started that.
I
And
don't know what you're
that's
talking
for another discussion.
about. Okay,
Are the
so
go
we can't.
karts in Las Vegas next level?
I don't know, but I guess we should find out.
I don't
Maybe
know either.
so.
They probably are. So the,
Yeah.
the
The
class
funny,
is, no, go ahead, Kim.
well, I'm just wasting time laughing about who we're bringing to Vegas because if you know our team, the two people we probably should not be sending to Vegas together is Michelle and Caroline. So they're going to have an absolute blast, and I hope Vegas is prepared for them.
I
So,
know. I don't think Vegas could ever be prepared for those two. I work with those two on a weekly basis. I don't think Vegas can be prepared for that. There's just
oh
no way
man,
around it.
it's going to be
So,
great though.
how many times have you guys been to Vegas for Apex?
Well, I mean,
So,
we
I mean, we
started
started
going,
off, yeah,
yeah,
going to shop owners.
Right.
So,
And
in early 2000s.
early
but
two
still, it's
thousands.
probably only been 6 or 7 times total.
Right. Okay. All right.
Really?
And so, as a shop owner, what did you guys get from that? What was your takeaway? Because if you went as a shop owner once, I've been talking to folks about this. They always say you got to go at least once, and the thing is after you go at least once, you're going back. There's no way around it. What was it that
Hmm.
kept you coming back to Apex?
I mean, for me, it was about finding the new tools that were available, the new parts that were available. Back when we used to go as shop owners, there weren't really classes there
Right.
to be able to learn. So they really stepped it up and made it an even better thing. But Apex was the place that you could go. I mean, if it was a tool or a part or a supply of some kind, it's there.
Absolutely.
And for you to learn about things that you had no idea about. I mean, I remember we were primarily a European shop, but we did do some work on Asian cars as well, and
Okay.
lots of like CV joints. And then we found this tool that would like just it would stretch a boot and put it right over the CV joint, and you would do CV joints in a fraction of the time that it used to take. It would just put new boots on them, and it was very
Right.
profitable for us.
A-
So, just things like
Absolutely.
that you find out about that you don't know exist until you get there and see it in action.
You're exactly right. And
Well,
I had been a bunch to these other trade shows, and we all go to these trade shows, right? But you and I and Kim and David, we all know this is a different level trade show. This is not a trade show that you could fit into a hotel ballroom. This is not a trade show that you could fit into a conventional convention center, right? This is massive. How would you even describe how big this trade show is?
Man, you can walk it for days.
Yeah.
I mean, and still not see everything. It's you walk into the exhibit hall and look down the row, and it's hard to see the wall on the other side of the building.
Yeah.
It's just massive.
Yeah. It
so
really is.
I'll tell you that kind of hitting both of those questions. For me, when we first started going to Apex, our son was tiny. I missed his first 2 or 3 Halloweens because Industry Week, as it was called then, um, and heavily promoted as Industry Week, was it was always right around Halloween, and we're actually arriving on Halloween this year. But for me to miss that, um, it says a lot about why I would come back and the amount of networking that you get to do and meeting other people. I always talk about how close knit this industry really is, and a lot of that comes from attending events like this. And as speaking of how large it is, I would say that if you don't go with a plan, you're going to miss a lot. It's very
Yeah.
easy to
Yeah.
to miss out on stuff. So look at the layout, look at the plan, look at where things are, and go in there with an idea of what you want to, kind of your top priority of things that you want to see, people you want to meet, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. And here's the thing is it's kind of like Disney World. You're exactly right. If you do not have a plan, if you don't have a thing that says, hey, I want to see this and I want to see this and I want to see this, man, you are going to miss some important stuff. Like you need to sit down and have something on paper of who it is you want to see. What challenges do you have in the shop? What challenges do you have in a certain area? And you need to go and make sure you pinpoint some areas that might be able to solve that problem. And so my next question for you is what is it that AAPEX is doing that is different? How is it impacting the industry differently than the other events? We all go to these events, but it feels like AAPEX has a much different impact than the other shows. It feels different. What is different about it? What are you guys picking up on?
Man, I can answer that one in 2 words. Joe's Garage.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, to have basically, what would be like a working shop on the conference floor.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've been to the events before where you can see a lift or an alignment machine or a tire changer or whatever, but to have these things bolted down in full operation,
yeah,
and to see demos and actually get to use these tools in places that you wouldn't be able to otherwise unless you went to a shop that had already purchased the equipment and used
right.
it. I mean, it's when they told me that they were doing that, I was blown away. For one, what conference center lets you go in there and bolt lifts into the floor? I mean,
Right.
that's just it's
Unheard
insane.
of. There's only one other show that I've ever been to that does anything like that, and that's IAPA. And it's at the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando. And I'm going to tell you something. That is, I want to say it's the second largest one in the world, right? And it literally has operating roller coasters inside because it's the amusements industry trade show. And so they've got roller coasters and water parks built inside the convention center. I've got to be honest with you, it is a little more fun than our automotive event, but
I bet it is.
that's for a whole different reason. Um, but I think you're right, and I think the best analogy for me is when I was looking at buying lifts for the new shop, one of the things that we looked at was shockwave versus a conventional lift, right? And I'm thinking, well, I don't know that there's that big of a difference. So when I was there, I saw some of the shockwave lifts right next to a conventional lift and thought, wow, that sucker does go up and down much faster. But, when it came time to buy them, you couldn't get them and they were back ordered and they were going to be a year longer than the ones I was already getting. So I just said, you know what, we'll just go with the call it done. But it's neat to be able to see that, right? Because the guy walks over and one goes to one lift, one goes to another and hits the button and you see one go up that much faster than this one. It gives you that visual comparison. It really lets you understand the difference between the two products. And we've talked about this before. When you go in there and you see somebody who is an expert in the field and you're thinking about doing something in your shop, buying a product, doing something specific, and you talk to them and you say, hey, here's what I'm going to do, and they look at you, you just see that look, right? Like Kim's given me that look before. I've been talking about marketing and Kim looks at me like, okay, Kim, what did I screw up now? Right? So it being able to talk to somebody who has experience, conventionally we've always looked at those people as vendors and we don't have time to talk to them and we're too busy and they just want to sell me something. This is a different environment altogether.
Yes, it's a very cool show. It's like you said, it's just like no other.
What
Well,
do
you
you
were talking about having the communication with the vendors. I remember last year talking to some of the shop owners that were attending, and one of the things that they loved about being there was they talked to some of these vendors all throughout the year, but having the opportunity to see them in person, face to face, and have that level of customer service and communication. So from a vendor standpoint, I think that they a lot of times probably look at this as the sales opportunity, to get new
Right.
customers, but at the same time, it gives them the chance to have that customer service in person. And shop owners were literally telling me how much they appreciated being able to have that FaceTime with people in the industry. So I think that's another thing that brings people there as well.
I agree. I agree. George Lesniak looked at me last year. I was telling him what I was going to do in the new shop, and he said I would not do that. And I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "That's a bad idea. Let me show you a better way to do that." Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
because the what you have to remember is the vendors send their best people to this show,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're not getting a conventional salesperson that's just trying to sell you something. From what I've found, you're getting
Mm-hmm.
their best people. When George Lesniak is working a trade show booth for Alltel, they sent their best guy. And when he begins to explain it to you, you understand why that is. And so I've noticed that about this trade show, the vendors are really working hard to make sure the person that's in that booth is the best person they have for the job. So I think if you want information, if you want a connection, if you want ability to get that right person in an organization who can help you, you've got a problem with something, this is the
Mm-hmm.
show to be at, that they can pull strings and make things happen for you. What are you guys most excited about this year? I know you guys are teaching some classes. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yep. So we are teaching the 13 foundational marketing strategies uh, class, and basically the idea of that class is that people overcomplicate their marketing. They
Right.
we will, I've owned a marketing agency now for 11 years. Um, Actually, a little over 11 years, if I count the time doing it at my kitchen table. But people will come to you and they want to do things completely out of order. Somebody will come to us and they're like, well, I keep hearing about geofencing, or I hear about this programmatic media with real time bidding, and I want to do that. And it's like, okay, well, what's your website like? So we go look at the
Right.
website, and they got a 3-page website that was built 15 years ago. And the fact about marketing is that the basics are the things that are going to give you the most return.
Right.
Like
That low
doing the
hanging
basics.
fruit.
Yep, just doing the basics, doing them really well, and not worrying about those shiny objects. Um,
Yep.
the shiny objects, that is for when your marketing is dialed in. It's perfect. And now you want to go do something that's going to give you that extra little 5%. But most shops are
Right.
not there yet. So we start off the class with a question of, what if everything that you know about marketing is what's actually holding you back? We just taught a class in Allentown, Pennsylvania this past weekend,
Yeah, I
and we
saw
were
that.
going. Yeah, so Kim was going around asking people in the beginning of the class, what is it that they want to take away from the class. And one of the guys started off by saying, well, I want to learn about social media because I know that all of these other types of marketing don't work. Well, that is something that you will hear from people all the time. Well, this type of marketing doesn't work, or that type of marketing doesn't work. And the fact is, all of them work in the right situations when executed well.
Right.
But when people have these preconceived notions, then they're actually just shooting themselves in the foot, because they did something one time, they didn't really do it well, and it didn't give them a return. And now they've decided, I'm never going to do this again. So that's kind of what this class is all about, is looking at all of the different types of marketing that are the foundational things that a shop should be doing, and focus on that before you start chasing shiny objects.
Man, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And a lot of owners need that class, right? We're all guilty of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
we get out and I think a lot of the reason is because that's what sells, right? The shiny objects, people talking about these great abilities they have and all this cool stuff. Everybody likes to tout the really neat, really cool stuff. And so they shy away from the basics, and I think it convinces us that's what we need. when it's not really the solution to the problem we're trying to solve. And you know, I will say even further, y'all are going to kill me for saying this, but I don't think that car count is the problem that a lot of shops have. They think they need more cars. It's not necessarily they need more cars. They need the right client. They don't need more clients. They need the right clients in the shop. And so I see a lot of shops doing that, right? They're just trying to put more cars in, more cars in. The other day in ASOG, somebody was saying, hey, what are the best strategies to get more cars? And the guy says, well, you know, there's a lot of things that you could do, but why are you trying to get more cars? And he said, well, it was slow last week. And I said, buddy, listen, if I've learned anything from David Roman, it's that marketing doesn't work now. Marketing works 30, 60, 90 days from now. You can advertise all you'd like. All you can do is get real busy down the road and have nothing now. So, you know, I think it's important to target what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And a class like this seems like a really great way to do that.
Yeah, people have been able to. They've gotten some great takeaways from this. We taught this at Vision, and it was actually, it was in the big room where they do all of the keynote speakers and everything, and
Right.
that room was full. And
Oh, that's
we
awesome.
had about 300 people that attended that
Wow.
class, and people were coming up to us for probably an hour after the class,
Holy
and
cow.
then throughout uh, throughout afterwards, telling us how great it was. So, it's a class that people who are going to Apex should come to this class. It is a good workshop.
That's fantastic. Any advice? I know you guys are actually headed to a client shop next, so that's super exciting.
Hmm.
But before we let you go, any advice that you might have for somebody attending Apex for the first time? I know we talked about having a plan, where they want to go. What would you guys tell them as shop owners? Where would you start making that plan? What are the pieces of advice that would make this show a better experience for them?
So I'll jump in here, and this is one of my favorite things, and it is a little bit of a recap of what we've said, but um, I think first of all is have comfortable shoes on, right? I mean that's kind of obvious. You're gonna really get your steps
Yeah.
in, but also um, when you see who's there, and when I said make a plan, I legit mean put things on your calendar, because I know there are people that will just be talking and say, "Hey, let's meet up, let's connect." Um, and you get there, and it's so overwhelming, and there's so much going on that you never really do connect with the people or the vendors, or the
Yeah.
ones that you had those good intentions for. And so really, I mean, I've already got multiple things on the calendar. We have a dinner Monday night already scheduled. I think breakfast on Wednesday with somebody. So literally being
Yeah.
intentional, and making that list, and also, I mean, it's so hard to do because there's so much information out there. But go to the Apex website, and look through. There's a ton of resources there for attendees to get a good idea of the lay of the land, especially if it's your first time. It can be really overwhelming. So really kind of get a good idea of what's really there. And I would even say there are people that may be watching this who are going to Vegas for SEMA.
Yeah.
Don't sleep on Apex. Like, don't.
Amen.
I mean,
Amen.
we love SEMA, but when we were shop owners, where we really got incredible value that we were able to bring back to the shop was the people that we met at
Yeah.
Apex. And like Brian said, the tools. I just had a conversation with Brittany, who was the ASOG winner at
Yeah.
ASTE, and I was talking to her. That was her first event in the industry that she went to. And she told me, she said, I asked her, I was like, what's your big takeaway? And she said, I really thought that I had all the advanced things, not all, but she was like, I
Yeah.
really thought I had lots of great equipment, and I do, but what's out there that I had no idea was there, just like what Brian was saying. So,
Yeah.
you don't
Absolutely.
know what you don't know unless you educate yourself and really dig into that website and see what all is there.
unconscious incompetence, right? Like you don't even realize that there is so much just on the other side of that little curtain, right? You don't realize how much is actually there. And you know, I remember when people were telling me about AAPEX before I went for the first time. And I was talking to people and they were saying, you don't understand. This is a big show. And I'm thinking, you know, I've been to IAAPA. IAAPA takes up the whole Orange County Convention Center. I didn't realize there were automotive shows that took up 3 convention centers, right? And like multiple hotels and multiple blocks. And so, you know, it's unbelievable. Words can't describe this show, right? Either show, but primarily AAPEX, words can't describe how much auto repair knowledge, information, connection, tools fit into one space. You just would not believe it. So if you've not had a chance to be there, man, this is the year. Make sure you're there.
I think it's interesting that a lot of times you have problems in the shop that have been solved by a vendor, a tool, something, some program is out there, and you think you're fighting this on your own, or that there just simply hasn't been a solution for this problem, and then you start walking the floor, and they're introducing products to you, and you're like, I just ran into this last week, where I needed a better product, I needed this tool, I needed something to solve this problem. I had no idea. Or you've been fighting it for years and you just didn't know that there was a solution for that problem. But just simply walking through the floor and talking to these vendors, you realize, man, there's a lot there that I just didn't realize was available to me to solve these problems that I'm having on a daily basis.
I agree. It is a
another tip that I would give the shop owners who go to this is don't just stay down on the first floor of the convention. You know, it's tempting to just stay down in Joe's garage because it's like, oh, that's the part that's for me. But get upstairs and go through the section that's really kind of geared towards promoting parts to like you know, the parts suppliers and that kind of stuff, and see what is out there, because you may see something new that you want to get your parts supplier to start selling. And there's a lot of that, you know, that you would never know about if you don't go.
You're exactly right.
It's really important to get in there and talk to your vendors that you deal with on a daily basis, because you're going to go to the show and you're going to talk to some higher ups. These are people that are in charge of, like you're saying, purchasing. These are people that are in charge of merchandising in the stores. And being able to make those connections, sure, you're just a shop owner, but if you've got ideas on how to improve that vendor, you'd find that they're really receptive to listening to feedback from individual shop owners. Especially if you come in, you've got an idea laid out, it's articulate, and as you go through, and you're talking to these vendors, you see products that would absolutely kill it in your market. Yeah, go back to your vendor and say, man, I saw this, this, and this. And you guys are not carrying this line. You guys aren't carrying this product from this vendor. You carry everything else from them, but you're not carrying this particular product. And this would absolutely kill it in this market. You can't do that anywhere else. It's really difficult to do it. Yeah. You could go back and talk to your territory sales manager, and that's fine. But you're not going to make that connection to that person's boss's boss. You know what I'm saying? Right. And you talk to that person and go, look, this market is really hurting for this product or this line or whatever. And you tell them, you just kind of lay it out to them, and you make that connection. Man, it is incredible what you can do. Just an individual shop owner talking to the right people. And you don't get that opportunity anywhere else.
Yep. The cool thing is you may not even have to wait to go home to do it, because chances are the person that's selling you your parts is at AAPEX, along with this new part that you want them to sell. And you can bring them right over to the booth and show it to them and say, I want this.
Go around the corner and they're right there. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. I know y'all got a busy schedule. Where y'all headed next? You headed out to a shop today, or what's the plan?
Yep, we're headed over to AAPEX Automotive today.
Nice.
Which is in Doylestown, Doylesville, I don't know, Doyle something, Pennsylvania.
Right.
So we're going there, and
really well-known shop.
And then from there, we are going up to West Point.
Very cool. I know that is super exciting for Miss Kim. I know that she's got to be just beside herself excited for that. So
Yeah. Hey, I
I
kind of miss him
am,
too.
but yeah, for Brian too. I'm just the loudmouth about it. And honestly, Brian hasn't seen him. I went up in August, but Brian hasn't seen him since the end of June. So, um, yeah, Dad's excited too. We're super proud of him and really looking forward to it.
well, sounds good. You guys have a great time, and we look forward to seeing y'all at Apex.